Hey everyone, I'm Coral. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here today with my book haul for March. I can't believe that this month is coming to an end already. So I've got a variety of things here and I'm going to tell you about them. Okay, first and foremost, I've got a couple vintage horror books that I picked up this month. The first one here is Next by Nick Sharman. I'm going to read you the synopsis for this because it's a good one. The spirit of brilliant and twisted TV director Frank Kane is free of his bed-bound body and growing stronger with each new sadistic act of his real-life horror show. Only the lovely and vulnerable Susie Keller knows the truth that no one around her will believe, the truth that makes insanity seem tame and nightmares sweet, the truth that she is now the target of Frank Kane's unholy hate and even more unspeakable lust. A+ synopsis. I also found a really great copy of Crota by Owl Going Back, which is one that I've been looking for forever. And I mean, I've seen copies before, but not necessarily in like the condition that I'd like to find one in. So this is about a creature, a legendary bear type creature that's murdering people. Can't go wrong with a murderous legend. And then I also found Night Brothers by Cindy Williams, and this one very simply is about a vampire who has the power to summon a panther and is using her panther magic to kill people. If I can do this without crying. We went up to Grammy's sometime this month. It was at the very beginning of this month because everyone's going through her stuff and deciding what's going to be kept and what isn't, what's going to be donated and all that stuff. So I really wanted to go through the library at the school. If you're not familiar with what I mean, Zach's Grammy was super fucking cool, and she and Grampy built a house that they lived in, but in like the bottom part, in like the first floor technically, but like it's kind of like the basement almost. There was a school and she taught there. She lived in a really tiny town outside of the city that we live in, and she taught there. She was a teacher. So she'd been retired for quite some time, for longer than I knew her, you know, and so all that stuff in the school has just been there for at least a decade, but likely more like 15 years, I think. So anyways, I wanted to go through that stuff before, because I think, you know, her kids just really want to get rid of a lot of it, which makes me very sad. Long story, already long story, but I'm gonna get to the point of the story. We went through and got some really special stuff, and I was able to go through her library stuff, and I found a whole bunch of like Fear Street and Point horror books. So I was very excited about that. I found The Hitcher by R.L. Stine. I think all of these are R.L. Stine. The Girlfriend by R.L. Stine. The Missing by R.L. Stine. The Face by R.L. Stine. Bad Moonlight by R.L. Stine. And A New Fear by R.L. Stine. There was a couple other things I found. I found Christina's Ghost and The Dollhouse Murders by Betty Wren Wright, which are just like these like middle grade YA old horror kind of things that I thought might be fun. And then I think most special of all, Zach's sister, one of Zach's sisters was up there before we were, you know, because this has been a process, and she grabbed for me before anyone else did a whole set of the Little House on the Prairie books for me. So these are very old. These were published in the 1950s, so I'm assuming that these are ones that Grammy had at some point, and then she added them to like the school library. They're just so, they're old, but they've obviously been, I mean, it's got the barcode on it, it's got the little slip inside of it and all that stuff. So I didn't bring a whole series out here, but yeah, so I was really excited and touched. That's a series that I really, really loved, especially the TV show. So I thought that was really, really nice. And just a really nice thing to remember a Grammy. Okay, I'm okay. We got it. We've got this. So next, let's see, what have I got here? I've got some like weird true crime stuff that I found. Well, this is not, I didn't find this. This was an arc that was sent to me. It's called Unmasked, and it's by Paul Holes, who is a cold case investigator, and he worked a lot on the Golden State Killer investigation. And yeah, this, I mean, it doesn't really have a synopsis. I'm assuming that the finished copy will, but this on the back is just like what the first couple pages in the prologue says. So I'm not really sure exactly what it's about, but it says my life solving America's cold cases. So I'm assuming it's maybe a little bit about his life during his time as an investigator, and maybe some stuff on the cases that he's worked on, etc. And this comes out next month in April, so I will be hopefully reading it early in April to get a review out there before it comes out. I also found this one, I can't remember how it got on my radar, but this is Murder in the Family by Jeff Blackstock, and this is about a young boy whose mother was murdered. She died, she was poisoned when she was only 24. I'm not sure how old he was, but obviously quite young if his mother was 24. And so, you know, for years it was an unsolved case, and I think as he's investigating it, it leads him to believe that his father might have been the one who killed his mother. And I really wish I could remember. I'm assuming I must have heard a recommendation from somebody, but I can't remember where or what or who now. And then I also found this one that I thought sounded interesting. This is From Crime Scene to Courtroom, Examining the Mysteries Behind Famous Cases by Cyril Wecht. And, but then also it says forward by Geraldo Rivera, which kind of makes me feel a little hokey about it. But this includes cases such as Michael Jackson, Casey Anthony, Drew Peterson, you know, Lacey Peterson, Brian Jones, and more. I'm not sure who Brian Jones is. But, yeah, I just thought it would be interesting. From Crime Scene to Courtroom, kind of like maybe an episode of CSI, but like real and in a book. I've been watching, Lobby and I have been watching a lot of CSI lately, which I know is not really how things go. It's always really funny to me when it's like, the crime scene investigators are interrogating people and stuff like that. It's like, I don't think that's how that goes. Anyway. And then, okay, well, that's not the only kind of true crime stuff I had, I guess. I also found They Cage the Animals at Night by Jennings Michael Birch, and this, I remember, one of Zach's sisters read this and thought it was, I don't know if good is the right word, because, like, it's a book about, the author, Jennings, and, like, his terrible childhood, so, she thought it was interesting. It has a blurb from Floretta Schreiber, which is kind of funny. And then this I've read. This was actually the same sister of Zach, Lindsay, who also a long time ago borrowed me this, Under the Banner of Heaven by John Krakauer. And that was the first John Krakauer book I'd read, and I really loved it. It was, I mean, this story is just terribly sad. This is interesting because it's like the crime, which is the Lafferty brothers, who were part of the fundamentalist Latter-day Saints, which are, it's like the offshoot sect of the Mormons that the regular Mormon church kind of shuns and tries to distance themselves from, but it's like the sect that believes in like I don't know, polyamory isn't quite the right word, right? I don't know. I feel like polyamory shouldn't have a negative connotation, but polygamy, that's what I'm thinking of. They believe in polygamy and stuff like that. And so it's about this family these brothers who murder one of their other brothers' wives, and it's just really terrible. But I think what makes this book so stellar is that he also goes in great depth into the history of the Mormon Church and the fundamentalist, the FLDS sect. And yeah, it's just really, really a really fascinating, terribly sad book. Okay, I think that's all the true crime type of stuff that I found this month. I also finally got my hands on a copy of Blacktop Wasteland by S.A. Cosby. I absolutely fucking loved his book, Razorblade Tears, and so I was like, well, I have to go back now to Blacktop Wasteland, which hopefully I'm not wrong, but I believe that this might be his debut, or at least this is the first one, the first book where I started hearing about this author. And I wasn't sure if I'd be interested because I don't really love crime fiction. I don't know. It just has to be a certain type of book, right? And then I found out that Razorblade Tears is that certain type of book. So, like I said, I wanted to go back. This is about a man named Bug who was previously a getaway driver in, I think, Mississippi, it says. And he's tried to distance himself from crime and things like that, but you know, sometimes that world draws you back, and he is struggling with that, and that's all I know. And I just, oh boy, I feel like I have to be, after reading Razorblade Tears and knowing like how terribly emotional that book was, I feel like I have to be in the right headspace for this, and I might not be right now, but hopefully someday soon. I also just fucking bought a copy of Harrow the Ninth by Tamsin Muir because I kept going to Barnes & Noble to try to find a copy of this because I read the first book. And like, the third one is coming out soon. So it's like, it's not like the series is 40 years old, you know what I mean? Like, it's a recent series, and why can't I find a copy of this fucking book? And so finally I just like, I just bought one. I just ordered one on the internet. So this is a sequel to Gideon the Ninth, which was about, I don't know, it's so hard to explain. It's such a weird, strange, interesting book, but it's like, there are these different planets, and they're each like a house, and the ninth house has necromancers, and they each deal with some sort of, I don't know if it's exactly necromancy itself, but they do kind of similar types of magic, and yeah, like I said, the ninth house deals with like animating corpses, you know what I mean? And so, I don't know, there's just like this plot that's a little bit confusing, so I'm not going to get too far into it, but I did like Gideon. It's just that the setting was so sparse, it was really hard to visualize everything going on in the book, and so I really hope that Harrow kind of fleshes that out a little bit more and makes it a more enjoyable time for me personally. And then I just happened across this copy of In the Darkness, Shadows Breathe by Catherine Cavendish, and I should have checked, but I believe this came out last year, which is when and why I heard of it, yeah. So it was like a little bit buzzy with like releases coming out in 2021, and then I just really never heard anything about it. But this is about Carol and Nessa, and their paths cross because they're both being manipulated by an evil entity, and I believe this takes place it says in a luxury apartment and in the walls of a modern hospital, so I don't know if they also work together or what's going on, but it seems like it will be a really moody gothic horror. Okay, and then I grabbed a couple at Barnes & Noble that were newer releases. This is Echo by Thomas Old Huvelt, and this is about a man named Nick, and he is a journalist and a mountaineer, and he wakes up in a hospital bed, and he's had some type of injury. He had been mountaineering, I guess, on the Swiss Alps with a friend, and now he wakes up in the hospital bed, and he is pretending to have amnesia, but he really doesn't, and it seems like whatever happened to him, whatever like weird event happened to him and his friend in the mountains is now somehow manipulating him in some way. So this seems really interesting. I am such a sucker. I don't know what it is about books, specifically horror, but also like I really have enjoyed a few fantasy and nonfiction books about mountaineering, which is just like a weird thing in my wheelhouse, I guess, but I'm so very excited for this, and I really hope that this is better than his book. What was that called? Hex? Because Hex had a really interesting idea, but it just got so messy, and by the end it was like, this book is unrecognizable, you know what I mean? So I'm really hoping that this kind of stays together a little bit better than Hex did. Let me know if you've read this. And then a book that I've been so excited for, The Violence by Delilah S. Dawson. And this is about, oh my gosh. So I was so excited. First, I should tell you, I was looking at the synopsis for this, and on the flaps of the book jacket are like these little like mold spores, by design, of course, they're not real. But it just really is evocative, I guess, and it really leads me to believe that there's going to be a very sinister, like rotten thing going on in this book. And it makes sense from the synopsis, because this is about a woman, and what's her name? Chelsea. Her name is Chelsea, and she is in a really terrible marriage, a physically abusive marriage. And it seems like this trauma kind of has permeated the generations of her family. Not necessarily physically, but emotional trauma and emotional abuse and stuff like that. And suddenly there is this, I don't know if it's like a disease, a pandemic, it says a condition, an infection, and they call it the violence, and it's making people kill each other. And so Chelsea takes advantage of this to free herself of her family. Oh my god. I'm not saying that I would like to do that at all. However, something about this really is calling to me. I love my family. I don't want to murder my family, you guys. But also, that book sounds so good. I can't wait to pick that up. Okay, just a couple more here. The last few are from subscription boxes. This is my last Fairy Loot book, and oh my gosh, I am so glad that I didn't cancel my thing before this, because this is honestly one of the absolutely most beautiful books I've ever seen in my fucking life. Holy shit. I just, this makes me feel so regretful about canceling my subscription, because I canceled it because I just like, I don't want to spend 45 whatever is with shipping, you know what I mean? Like, it's like 45 bucks, right? For just a bunch of like trinkets I honestly just really don't use. And I mean, of course there's the book included in there, and the book is always very beautiful, and so I'm regretful because I love these beautiful books that they've, you know, created and designed. They're just so pretty. However, I just can't justify spending that much money. And also, like, now I have all this shit. Like, I don't know what to do with this stuff. I don't want to just throw it away, but what the fuck do I do with it? You know what I mean? Like, a lot of it I give to Wabi, but like, I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just, it's a conundrum. Hopefully they come out with a book-only subscription at some point, because I'd really love to just have the books. So anyways, this is Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan, and this is, it says it's inspired by the legend of Chang'e, the moon goddess. I might be saying that incorrectly. This is a story from Chinese mythology. I'm not familiar with. Maybe I should look that up, but I mean, it sounds like a really fun story. It's about a young girl whose mother has been, I believe, like banished or something like that, and she's trying to save her mother and stuff like that, but she also has to like remain hidden because I think, I don't know, like the Celestial King or the Celestial Emperor doesn't know if she exists. Maybe, I'm not sure, but it sounds like a really fun fantasy story. And then, lastly, these books were in my Nightworms package for this month. First is Certain Dark Things by Sylvia Moreno Garcia, and secondly, Sundial by Catriona Ward. and I read both the synopsis for these in my unboxing, so if you're very interested in that, you can go ahead and watch that. But otherwise, I'm gonna get out of here. So thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'd love to know if you've read any of these, specifically The Violence and Echo. I'm very interested in what people are thinking about those, so let me know. That's all I have for you though. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you later. Goodbye.